Hey, it's Peter. Let's talk about how to get rich. More specifically, this Twitter thread and podcast by Naval Ravikant. I read the thread a while ago, but just listened to his podcast a couple days ago, and there's so much to unpack here. I could make this video like an hour long, but wanted to document what I learned, what I felt was impactful for me, and what I'm doing about it. I will link the thread and the podcast in the description. Let's get into it with idea number one. For building wealth, specific knowledge is the end goal. To find it, follow your obsessions and your natural talents. And to add a little bit more context, he says that the skills needed to become rich are specific knowledge, accountability, leverage, judgment, and lifelong learning. Specific knowledge is what I want to focus on here. I find it hard to define concretely, but it's a highly technical or creative skill or knowledge that can't be trained. If you could just learn about it in the classroom, then someone else could be trained to do it, which means you could mass produce this skill. Specific knowledge is unique to you. It comes from experience, it comes from apprenticeships, it comes from cutting edge knowledge. For me, how I think about it is, I guess it's your passion plus your authenticity. Everyone I feel is naturally great at something based on just their genetics and their personality. And so when you take advantage of those and bring value back to society, that is using your specific knowledge. He says in order to find your specific knowledge, to pursue your curiosity, pursue your passions, follow your obsessions, it will feel like play to you, but it'll look like work to other people. And that if you're not 100% into it, if you're not obsessed with it, then someone else who is 100% into it will outperform you. I don't think it has to be ones and zeros, but if we're talking about building real wealth and being the best at what you do, I think there's some truth to that idea. On the internet, you're competing with everyone else on the internet, no longer just your little community or your little city. And speaking of competition, no one can compete with you. He says to lean towards authenticity, to get away from competition. That competition leads to copycatting and playing the wrong game. When you create your own niche, when you create your own brand, your personality, no one can compete with that. You've created your own space. So with all that context, what I took away from this was for me to focus on finding my specific knowledge. That's the key. And that it's going to come from experience and following my obsessions and natural talents. I've thought a lot about my natural talents, what I'm good at, what I'm interested in, and I feel like nothing has stood out to me. I feel warm in a lot of different areas, and I feel like I've gotten some direction from other people based on their observations, but I feel like nothing's kind of slapped me in the face. At least that's how I feel, from the inside looking out. And so I've come to understand that I just need to pick something, and over time, over experience, it'll settle into my specific knowledge. So this was the nudge for me to realize that my specific knowledge is going to come from experience and come from time, and that I just need to start and pick a direction, pick what pulls me the most. And if I can be, 60% right, that's better than 0% or not doing anything. But over time, I can bump that 60% to 70% to 80% to 100%. But over time, that will come, and so I just have to pick a direction and start walking, And another takeaway on a similar note is that he says that inspiration is perishable and to act on it immediately, which is something else that I took away from this. So what am I doing about this? I've decided to lean more heavily into teaching, communicating, documenting, sharing my thoughts and ideas. This may change and mold in the future, but based on the information that I have today, on what I'm good at, what I'm interested in, where I spend my time, what I want to become in the future, I feel like this is the best step for me. And the second thing that I'm doing about this is I've decided to start acting on inspiration and motivation more. I've done this a couple of times more recently, and I'm trying to act on it more. But when I feel inspired to do something, when I feel motivated, when I feel that drive to take advantage of that moment and that inspiration and act on it and follow through with it immediately, because I know that inspiration will come and go. And so you can't rely on that to keep you going for the long term. Idea number 2 is to start valuing reinvesting your time and money into specifically building your skills, your mindset, and your character. He defines 4 types of luck, which are from Marcus Andreessen. The first is blind luck, from something completely out of your control. Second is luck from hustling, from persistence, hard work, motion, just creating a lot of opportunities. The third is luck from preparation, being able to spot opportunities and spot luck. And then the fourth is luck from your unique character. And this is where luck finds you based on your unique brand, your mindset, your character, your personality. He says that you want to focus on this fourth kind of luck, which is when you build your mindset, your skills, your character, your reputation, your brand, until luck starts finding you, that it's inevitable that you find luck. So the takeaway for me from this was that my highest return on investment is actually going to be into building my skills, mindset, and character. That I should be okay with spending money and valuing actually spending money on building these skills and building my character. Over the past, maybe year and a half, I've gotten so focused on building this frugal mindset and pinching pennies and budgeting and investing, but not on the flip side of that, which is building high value skills outside of work. I feel like I've developed this mindset that spending any kind of money is bad. And so this has been a mindset shift for me that no, spending money on your skills and your mindset and your character are actually the best investment. You just won't see the results right now. So I visualize this as 2 graphs. One is, the slow investing, everything I get, being frugal, pinching pennies. You get to a place that's comfortable and good, you reach your goals, but it's slow and steady, and you just kind of reach your goals. And I see the second as being focused on developing your skills, reinvesting. You may take a dip in the short term, but the returns are so much greater in the long term. So what am I doing about this? First thing is I've just literally increased my budget for education. I have a category for education and just started putting more money in that, trying to shift my mindset to being okay with spending money from that and valuing spending money from that. And the second is I've written down a list of kind of high value skills that I feel like align with my direction and growth. And I'm going to try to think about developing those and building those skills rather than just kind of going through the motions of life. So those were the 2 main takeaways and actions that I got. There was so much else to unpack from this. So here are a couple other ideas that I found value from. Idea 3 is wealth is a positive sum game. Status is a zero sum game. Focus on building wealth, not status. A zero sum game means that in order for one person to win, someone else has to lose. In order for someone to get to rank 1, someone has to be rank 2. You can't have 2 people winning and getting value at the same time. Wealth is about creating abundance. It's about creating value. He says that in a perfect world, everyone is working for themselves and doing what they're naturally best at, which gets back to that first point of finding your specific knowledge. I think I've had this idea that people with money and wealth are in some way bad, but I've started to understand that mindset just isn't going to help me. And so I've started to think more about the positive, that building wealth is just about creating abundance. It's just about creating value for society. And I feel like that's a much better idea to have cemented in my mind going forward. This is definitely a mindset shift for me, so it's going to take time. The more I'm exposed to this idea, the more experience that I have, the more it'll sink in for me. The last and final idea 4, is he says that things that you can't purchase are your physical health, your mental health, and your close relationships. That these are things that anyone and everyone has to work on and cultivate. It doesn't matter how much money, how much wealth you have, and that these will bring you a lot more inner peace and happiness than any amount of money will. And that these are, just about being a human being on this earth. So I think it's, for me, helpful to know that I will always have to work on these things, and that, any amount of money is not going to solve these problems for me. And so, more recently I've started to focus more on exercising as well as eating healthier, because your mind really is at the center of your entire world, and so you have to take care of your body. So that is my breakdown of the Twitter thread and podcast by Naval Ravikant. There's so much else packed into this thread and podcast. I highly recommend you listen to it full length. I'll link to it in the description. But these are just my few takeaways that I felt were most meaningful for me in this point in my life, as well as things that I can actually take action on right now. So, hope you got some value out of this, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.